Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Kaylin Strain coming at you with my regular Sunday night dinner. And tonight is a menu I have had before. I'm not sure if it was the same year or if it was a different year that this jalapeno pepper jack beef patty has been out. But in 2018, this was menu 19. And yeah, the title only has one T in the word patty, but when you're setting up the titles on the app, the mobile app, you only have 60 characters and spaces. So I will fix that later on after I'm done with the stream. And I will add the additional words to make the title more complete. But this was packed by Sapaco. And this is one of the 3 bag styles. This is the only bag style that actually has an image of a couple of soldiers sitting and appear to be enjoying some downtime. The other 2 bag styles do not have this image, but everything else is the same. It's just a different style. Peelable seal. Sometimes these work, sometimes they don't. You'll see how this one goes. I think the last bag I opened, the peelable seal was actually not where the arrow was pointed. It was off center. So where you're supposed to peel it apart was actually not in the center of the bag like this one is. Finally got a thumb in there. And it appears that Sapaco has taken a play out of the MRE playbook. They use an inner bag. Which is actually a nice way to protect the contents. So everything in here is nicely contained. Sometimes it's hard to figure out where to open these bags. You would think that you could just pull it right here, but it's easy enough to pierce through this side. So here we have plain tortillas. This is done by Sterling. And if you remember, sometime back I got one of these goodie boxes. This is a 2020 pack of the Chipotle tortillas. Again, same company, but different pack styles. I just thought that was kind of unique that it would have that much of a change. Here's the sleeve. Then this is a card for the cherry blueberry cobbler. Nothing on the back of this. Got ketchup. Not in the accessory pack, just separate. Oatmeal chocolate chunk cookie. The stick beverage powder, which would be one that would normally go into either 20-ounce bottle or a 500 ml bottle, depending on what you have handy. That will go into the drinking jar. Pack of the milk chocolate M&Ms. A packet of mustard. I don't remember these being in the pack last time I had this. This is the cobbler. Let's see, we have Fordman in the house, James Ortiz. Cliff is here. Nation MRE Fines. Henry, thanks for dropping in. Infos is here. Have the spoon, which will get added to my collection because, as we all know, I use my foreign MRE spork. The flameless ration heater, which I do save. Accessory pack, which actually has real sugar this time. And this one appears to be a fully loaded accessory pack too. The beverage bag, which I save. And then this is the rectangular beef patty. It's got some weird light colored spots on here. As always, I use the ration bag as my trash bag. There's no cheese spread in here. And I wasn't sure if there was going to be any ketchup or mustard. So I decided to pull from my stash I also pulled a cheese spread with jalapeno. There is Storm's Radio and Cats in the House. Inside the accessory pack, the cheese spread, which I do not eat, the cheese spread with bacon. So I will hold on to this. This will get passed on to someone who would eat this. So I will switch out for the jalapeno cheese spread, which is what I was wanting to have anyway. Got cinnamon gum. The red side always indicates cinnamon in these gum packets. Coffee Instant Type 2. That will go into the foreign MRE mug. There's the Lighthouse Rear Roll. The salt. If I wanted to try to use the flameless ration heater, I would be dropping this salt in there. Got the creamer. DD Bean & Sons matches, and these have a white tip. Whatever the tip color means, I don't know. Got the wet wipe. And there's the sugar. So normally I would do the drink powder first, but because this grape is an easy mixing kind because it's not a sugar based, I won't have to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and put the coffee, the creamer, and the sugar in the mug. The creamer looks absolutely perfect. So I am going to be heating up both the cobbler and the patty. And then when I come back, I will also be breaking up the cookie so I can do my usual thing with the cookie and the cobbler. And then because I chipotle tortillas. I want to have these instead of the plain, so I will hold these back for another time. Let's see, you got Wide Family Farm in the house. Thanks for dropping in. So I'll be right back. I am back. While I was in there, I laid the tortillas on the stove top to the right of my front burner. Now we'll just take some of the residual heat from where that burner was turned on, and I have the cheese spread just laying on top of that. So that is my coffee all mixed up. Spicy tuna rolls is here. That is such a fine, slightly purplish powder. Well, that doesn't look like grape. I guess it's, look like, I don't know, I was thinking it said grape, it's orange. It looks like the color of Tang. And I'm using less than the recommended amount of water because some of these drinks I like to actually taste them. And I just didn't feel like getting out a taller glass. So this is about 13 ounces or so. Now while I wait for everything to heat up, I have a bowl. And because this cookie is going to be broken up anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and crush it in here. And for those coming in late, this is menu 18 or menu 19 from 2018, the jalapeno pepper jack beef patty. So I'm going to break some of these pieces up a little smaller. When I poured that hot cobbler on this, that should hit the chocolate chunks. And you can see how big those chunks are. That should help to melt them a little bit. I would probably call this one of the lighter meals since there's not a whole lot really to this one. You don't have the large, the protein count that you might have with wow, these M&Ms took a hit. I did not expect that. I'll just pick the whole tray up so you can get a... Gonna focus on there. Yeah, they definitely took a hit. Get the focus back where it belongs. Yeah, it's definitely bits, and the chocolate has bloomed on any of it that has been exposed. It looks like the color of cocoa mix. But who knows? I may end up throwing some of those into the cobbler as well. Just, if there is enough of the sauce when I go to pour that on top of the busted up cookie. But I will go get everything from the kitchen and I'll be right back. I'm back. This thing makes it very handy to carry all of these hot things in. So the cobbler is on top. So I'm going to dry it off. The tear notch goes this way, so I shake it down. when you warm up these cobblers, you actually get more of the syrup out than you would if you just leave it cold. And a little dribbled. So I'm actually gonna sit that back here. And this is apparently the newer style of packing for the chipotle tortillas. There we go. I'm not sure if this is just something that is a permanent change or if they were testing this. There goes oxygen absorber down on the floor, but I'll get that later. Yeah, I set that tortilla wrapper on top of, I got my spork in the cobbler. I'm going to put that one there. And then, actually what I could do, now that I have this, I am going to, I'll take my spork out. And I'll put that thing I used to carry everything in. I put that over top of the cobbler. Now before I open up the patty, I am going to do something about this tortilla. The cheese spread got warmed. so it's a lot easier to knead. Now the rest of this, I'll squirt on the other tortilla. I guess they figure if you only get one patty, you got to do something with the other tortillas, so they give you a cheese spread. And for one patty, you don't need a huge amount of the ketchup and mustard unless you put that on the other tortilla as well. So I've opted to use my packets. Now this patty is going to have broth in it, but I will not take that. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my spork to get it out of here. And this is basically what you end up with. A patty that is just a little bit too wide for a folded over tortilla, but that's fine. This tortilla was going to break anyway, so we'll see how this one goes. Well, this one's going to break too, but aren't burgers supposed to be messy? But having the jalapeno cheese on top of the jalapeno beef patty, plus the flavor of the chipotle tortilla, yeah, that definitely works. Yeah, this tastes like a sugar-free version of Tang. It has that same artificial orange flavor. See, this one already is leaking out the back. But that's okay. Now, I think the last time I did this, I had a Canadian hamburger bun. That's what I used last time instead of the tortillas. And I believe that was plain tortillas as well. But I had the Canadian hamburger bun. If I had the smaller tortillas like you get in the MRE Star packs, you get three tortillas, but they're smaller in diameter. That would be the perfect size. You could use one for each side of the patty. Or even if you had a twin pack of the snack bread, that would be a little bit better because they're more appropriately sized and shaped for these rectangular patties. And they do the rectangular patty because they're more efficient to produce because you can get a larger number of patties in a production run than you would if you're doing round ones, but yet you get round cookies. Although mine is no longer round. This is the same thing that I do when I get the Chilean DAF rations with the Big Cracker and berries jam. I'm glad they included a cookie with the cobbler, as I bet if the soldier in the field has time, he or she probably would do just that. Provided they have a container to do it in, like a mess kit. I'm going to take a check of the chat because I hadn't seen it do anything for a while. Nope. CT, they are M&Ms. Oh, there's my crusher here. Wyoming is here. Chelsuck is here. I'm just going back through the chat to see if I missed anyone. And it looks like I'm all caught up on who's here. My chat may be on top chat. I don't know if I can change that here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I was on top chat. I'll switch to live chat. There we go. That's probably why my chat doesn't always show up, because I'm never bothering to check to see if it is on top chat, which only shows some comments, or a live chat, which shows everything. This is Coffee Instant Type 2. I like the Type 1 better, but that is so hard to come by these days. So I'll take a Type 2 any day. I just keep going back for this. They put the pepper jack seasoning right into the meat when they're making these patties. So it's really hard to tell unless you're seeing the little flecks of red every once in a while. Of course, then again, you may also be seeing the ketchup. I can use this one to kind of collect any of the patty juices that might have escaped. And that's why I put the rest of the cheese spread was in this tortilla. I am loving the kick from the jalapeno. Yeah, there's a little, at least on the Android version of the app, I don't know how it is on an iPhone, but there's a little thing at the bottom that looks like a squared chat box. You tap that, and that brings up the options to show the, see, I'll do it again. It shows the top chat, live chat, super chats, or none, where I would not see anything. But I'd rather see everything. So if you're using an Android device to stream from, that little squared chat box at the bottom is where you make your selection. There is LC here. (2018) menu 19. Again, I'm having a little fun with it. This one came with the plain tortillas, but I decided to have the chipotle ones that I got in one of the goodie boxes. And this one came with the cheese spread with, oh, there it is, cheese spread with bacon. But because they use real bacon in this, I do not eat pork, so I will save that and pass that on to someone else. So I use part of the cheese spread on the patty, along with ketchup and mustard. And then the rest of the cheese spread went into the other tortilla. These are seriously messed up chocolate M&Ms. Coffee Instant Type 2. And this is the sugar-free orange drink. It tastes like a sugar-free version of Tang. And this is the berry cobbler mixed with a busted up oatmeal chocolate chunk cookie. And I warmed up the cobbler so it would come out of the pouch easier and you get more of that syrup, plus it would partially melt the chocolate. It softens up the cookie pieces and you get that chocolate mixing in with the fruit flavor. That's the way to go with that. It's like I am going to have to stir the orange drink just a little bit. Now that should be good for the rest of the evening. You got the cinnamon gum. Half of the packet is red, so that's how you know it's cinnamon with these U.S. Ration gum packets. These M&Ms are cracked. They're powdery. And here is one that broke, so you can see how lightly colored the chocolate is. But I'm going to go ahead and eat one. It still tastes perfectly fine. It just does not have the right texture that an M&M's chocolate center should have. So if I have to scoop these up to eat them, I won't mind. It would be nice to have two of these patties in one meal, because then it would make more sense to have this much ketchup and mustard. Those little packets that I used were probably not even half of this. These are 10 gram. This is weight in grams and not in like a fluid ounce, like you would see on a bottle of ketchup or mustard. The little packets that I use are probably maybe 4 gram. But now that I have these, I can add these to my stash and save these for when it would make more sense to use a larger packet like this. Even the cheese spread with the jalapeno inside this chipotle tortilla. This definitely works. The jalapeno cheese spread does not taste as salty as the regular cheese spread, and I like that. The jalapeno cuts through that saltiness. And when you have it on this cuts the saltiness even more. Usually I try to avoid the sugar-free drink powders, but I'll still use them on camera. And I take them camping because they pack so small. There is John's MRE in the house. Thanks for dropping in. What I got is a 2018 Menu 19, packed by Sapaco. And as usual, I'm having my fun with it. This is a 2020 pack of the chipotle tortillas, done by Sterling. Looks like this compared to this packet of the plain tortillas that came in the MRE. And I don't know if this pack style has been phased out or if this is just a test. See how this works? A completely different shape. Just a hair shorter than the old pack, but wider than the old pack. So this is the tortilla from end to end. So there's more space in here. Whereas in this one, they're slightly angled and it almost went from end to end of the packet. And this cheese spread with bacon will get added to a bag of items that I will give to someone. So this will be like the fourth bacon cheese spread that I will be adding to that bag. And then I did the cobbler with the berry cobbler and the busted up cookie, oatmeal chocolate chunk cookie. And these are the M&Ms. As you can tell, they took a serious hit, but they still taste good. I might actually leave that right there. The bowl sits a little crooked, but that's okay. At least it's in view. And when I took the beef patty out of its pouch, I left all that behind. Now there would be some spice in there. I could dip this tortilla in it. But that broth is very, I'm tasting salt. But then again, I'm tasting the saltiness of the cheese. This would be a way of getting the calories from this without having such a huge mess. Of course, that doesn't taste anywhere near as good as the ketchup, mustard, and the cheese spread on this patty inside of the chipotle tortilla. Yep, Elsie, this is delicious. For a 2018 beef patty, this does not taste dry at all. I'm surprised the tortillas held up as well as, of course, these are 2020 tortillas. I don't know how these hold up because these are going to stay closed for the time being. But I'm glad I had these Chipotle tortillas because when I saw that packet, I thought, oh yeah, I am definitely going to be eating that with the jalapeno beef patty. I wish I had another one of those beef patties. I just like that jalapeno pepper jack beef patty. James Ortiz has been in here for a few minutes. Now this is an oatmeal chocolate chunk cookie. I busted it up and I put the warmed mixed berry cobbler on top. If I didn't have that cookie, I would have gone for that HDR cookie that I have in my ration box. But because that's just an oatmeal cookie, it doesn't have the chocolate. I still would have put the M&Ms in there. But that cookie has a bit of a cinnamon flavor to it. Or at least the last oatmeal cookie that I had out of a U.S. ration. Nothing wrong with that. Not everybody would be watching a certain football game. For those that know Garden State Gardener, he did not do his Sunday Fun Day because he's having a party at his house with some people and they got the game on his TV there. Well, someone's got to do the chores. I can't get the cat to do it. She wants to drink out of a sink faucet. I keep telling her to turn it on herself. I keep showing her how to do it, but she won't do it. Well, that's okay, John. You can hang right here and enjoy a ration with your eyes. And hang out with others who are really not into football. I used to be more into it, but then, when my TV service got cut off when I had a bundled service through a phone company which will not be named. They basically killed my DirecTV account And then they spun off my Verizon cell service I had at the time. I kept that because obviously, I need to have a cell phone for when I'm on the go because I don't have a landline. And so I just had the DSL, which is slow. And it's still slow. They say they're better than a cable company, but that's a load of crap. So then I just stopped using my TVs unless I was going to watch a DVD or I had an Xbox, so I would attempt to play one of the games that I had, but I'm just not much of a gamer. I even had a fishing game. I really couldn't make sense of that one either, and I had the fishing controller. But when I moved out of that place to move over here, I sold a lot of those things. And the one TV I had donated to a thrift store because there's a flat screen, the old CRT type Fat Boy. No one takes those anymore, so I just left it there when I moved out. I took it off the table that, oh, this is a little crooked. There we go. I took it off the table that I had it on. I brought the table with me, but I left that TV. I figured the next person can deal with it. And I don't regret not continuing the TV service. So I just got everything from the internet. At one time, when there used to be a Burger King in the downtown area across from a Walgreens that I go to get my prescriptions from, at one time they had a promotion where you could get 3 different Xbox games. I think they're like less than $5 each at the time. I got those. I never opened them up. So when I sold them to a place that takes used video games, I'm sure collectors were probably excited to see unopened Burger King games that they would get for their kids or for themselves. So I had no idea what they were about because I just never opened them. I had like 3 other video games that I attempted to play, but I just never really got the hang of it. So when I sold the Xbox, they just went all as one big package. See, I had some kind of a space fantasy type game that was kind of a shooter, but I never got past the first level. I had a Tony Hawk skateboarding game, and I never got past the first level. Then I had some other kind of a more of an RPG role playing game that has some action in it, but I really didn't get very far with that one. Plus, I had the fishing game. They just I just couldn't get my head around those, how to get through those. So I just never really played them much, but I used that Xbox more as a DVD player because I could do it with that. Especially when I was having computer issues and I couldn't play a game on, or I couldn't play a DVD on a computer. So I was using the Xbox console to watch the DVDs that I had. Yeah, the UFC is like ultimate fighting. It's like a mixed martial arts type thing. It's not, it's, there's another one called, known as MMA, that's mixed martial arts. So you're incorporating several different fighting styles in the same match. Instead of, say, doing specifically kickboxing or specifically judo or karate or jiu-jitsu, you're taking elements of all of those and combining them into the one match against your opponent, and your opponent is doing the same thing. Yeah, the amount of light changes a little bit when I'm moving my hand across. I don't know how to fix that. Say, like, I put it lightens up a little bit. I don't know, just that variation in the amount of light you're seeing. I really can't control that. It just is with the camera in this phone, but at least it functions a whole lot better than the Galaxy. But I will, at least for the time being, I'll still keep that one as a backup. I still have that LG Phoenix 3, which this Revel replaced. So if something happened to this one, I can go back to that one as a backup. But unlike that one, I cannot replace the battery in this one. Yeah, that's another thing I like about this one. When I do have those system or those interruptions, I'm right back on, usually within a half a second to a second. Whereas on the Galaxy, because it does not have the power of this one, I could be out for several seconds and wonder if I'm going to get completely kicked off. I'm throwing some more M&Ms in there. Just for the heck of it. But this one has a much higher internal memory, 128 gigs, not counting the SD card that I put in there. I just saved the SD card that I used in the LG, but eventually I should get a higher capacity one. And unlike the Galaxy, when I'm running several video clips through the Power Director video editor, I don't have to dump all my apps in order to do that, because there is the space available to process that video. Now, if it's super huge, or the finished product is going to be over an hour long, and then obviously I'm just going to be dumping them on the laptop and then running that through my OpenShot. That's a video editor that I use on a computer. So on the Galaxy, I would have to either dump all the apps, and that still wouldn't be big enough, or dump it onto the computer and do it that way. And the LG, I couldn't use Power Director at all. I was using one that is no longer supported, called My Movie, and sometimes that would not upload to YouTube at all, even though it said it was compatible. But I don't think that one is even available anymore in the App Store. So Power Director is. I have not seen OpenShot for mobile. But I like what I can do with Power Director, so it's a free one. I get the free version of these. Yeah, if I don't have certain features, I wouldn't use them anyway, because the only thing I use a video editor for is splicing. I don't do any fancy intros. I don't do any text overlays. I don't do any fancy endings. I don't do any fancy transitions or other effects. I just don't want to be bothered with having to go through all that. And of course, I don't use music. Because even though now YouTube says you can use certain tracks that are copyrighted, but you can share ad revenue with the copyright owner, I'm not going to take that risk. I won't even use any of the so-called copyright-free stuff. I just don't want to take that risk. I check every video that I upload for any copyright issues, even if it's a mail call video. Even if it's a short of my cat, I will check it for copyright issues because you just never know. If you're asking me, John Zimmery, I am close to a minor league baseball stadium. It's called Principal Park. The stadium used to be called Sec Taylor after a former secretary, a state secretary whose last name was Taylor. And the field itself is still called Sec Taylor Field. But Principal is a large insurance and financial corporation that's based here in Des Moines. And they got the naming rights to the stadium by giving the team who knows how many millions of dollars. So I am close to that stadium, but I have not taken in a minor league baseball game for the Iowa Cubs in several years. Like I said, I have not gone for several years. To me, it's just one of those luxuries that I just choose not to bother with. I mean, I used to enjoy going to the Iowa State Fair, but the ticket prices have gone up, and the last time I went was in 2019, when my sisters and my great niece and my mom went. And that was my mom's first time riding a city bus. So we went for the day. But that was the last time I had been to the fair. I just choose not to spend my money on stuff like that anymore. Other than paying bills and buying stuff that I need for myself and my cat, I choose to put my money into things that will serve me better in the long term. Now that sounds like fun, Now, family trips, yeah. Camping trips with friends, yeah, I'll do that. Because that is something that will give me more enjoyable memories than just running around the fairgrounds. And not really seeing much of interest. Yeah, James, if I would have had a cell phone when I was in Mexico back in '86, I probably would have had a terabyte of photos and videos. Or maybe half a terabyte if, you know, considering I was doing group things, like I was actually attending classes while I was down there. And then we had group activities. But I took 9 rolls of 110 film with me. And I burned through all of that, but something happened to some of those rolls when I was coming back. A couple of them, I must have missed moving a couple of them, in preparation for the return trip. And when they got exposed to the x-ray machines, I think they got ruined, because I did not get 9 rolls worth of pictures back. But I got a lot of the important shots that I wanted. So at least it wasn't a total loss. I still have that 110 camera, by the way. My parents gave my sisters and I matching cameras, and they came with little letters you could put on the camera itself. There are little indentations. So we had our initials put on them so we could distinguish, say mine from Holly's or Teresa's. Yeah, Cliff, especially if you get away from the tourist areas and you actually have it done by a cook in the home, or if you're hitting up a street vendor that the locals go to, or if you're going to one of the markets where the locals go, like in Guadalajara, there is a 4-block square market known as the Libertad Market. In Mexico City, there's a bigger one known as Mercado de la Merced, or the Market of Mercy, because Merced means mercy. I did not get to hit that because we only had one weekend in Mexico City. And we could not do a whole lot while we were there. Plus, we were navigating through earthquake damage in Mexico City itself. So there are some places we could not get to or go into, like the presidential palace. Part of it was blocked off because part of it was still unsafe for the public or even palace staff to go into. Only construction workers were allowed in there to do the repairs and to stabilize the parts of that building that were still sketchy. And the Basilica de Guadalupe, the old building, was not structurally sound to be used anymore for daily use by the local Catholics, so a new one was built in a more modern style, which could actually hold more people. And so the artifacts from the time of this young indigenous man named Juan Diego, all that was moved to the new basilica, and people could go in there and see that. And then the building called the Palacio de Bellas Artes, or the Palace of Fine Arts, the Tiffany curtain, which is like these glass panels made by the Tiffany glass company, famous, those Tiffany lamps. They made this glass panel curtain, and that survived. So I got to see that. We were pretty far back in the theater, but I still got to see it. And we were going to take in a bullfight, but they had been canceled because of a threat of rain. They did not do bullfights in the rain. So we went to another museum instead. So we were down there during June, and it was the start of the rainy season down there. So it rained at various times of the day, nearly every day that we're down there. Sometimes during the night, and sometimes during the day, and at different times of the day. But in Guadalajara, we went to some of the suburbs, and then there's a town called Tequila. And there's a tequila plant that we went through. And a lot of tourists are going through there that they ran out of the tourist or the visitor badges. So not all of us got to have a visitor's badge because there were just so many, but they didn't turn anyone away. Yeah, the blue agave, so we got to see how it was processed. So all the stages from the initial cutting up of the raw agave to its first cook, and then through the distillation process, and then the bottling line. And the brand was called Herradura. And if you see a bottle of that, it has a horseshoe on it. And people kept asking me if they put a worm in it. I said, no, Herradura does not put worms in their tequila bottles. Not every company does that. And that made me wonder if only the lower priced tequila companies did that. But there is another drink that is made called pulque, which is more like a beer. It looks like watered down skim milk, but it's brewed like a beer. And apparently that one was very popular among the indigenous peoples before anything else came in. And it's probably still very popular down there. And one restaurant that we went to, we noticed that the way they serve the customers is all the men would get an initial shot of tequila, where the women would get either wine or a beer. They would not be given a complimentary shot of tequila. It was just the men who would be given it. If a woman wanted tequila, she would have to ask for it. Now, this is just in one restaurant that I had gone into where they did that. We ate at another restaurant where they did not do that, but that one was more of a tourist type place because they had menus in English. As well as Spanish. But the one that was not so well known to the tourist crowd is like that. I never saw any insects, or I was never offered any cooked insects while I was down there. I may have seen them or passed by them in the Libertad Market in Guadalajara, but I did not have a whole lot of time to go through there. I just wanted to see as much of it as I could. I may have missed probably a third of it because I had to get back to the house that I was staying in by a certain time. And I needed travel time, for riding the bus because I rode buses and trolleys while I was down there. In Mexico City, our group used taxis because that was just more efficient for us to use taxis. Whereas in Guadalajara, unless we were doing a group activity, our transportation was on our own. We would either catch a bus, like I did, or use taxis. Or a group van, we would hire a group van for a couple of different times. Now, we did some walking in Chapultepec Park in Mexico City. We walked around there. And of course, at the pyramids, La Pirámide del Sol, I went all the way up to the top of that thing. I had to stop 4 times to catch my breath because you're already at a high elevation in Mexico City, and then you go up another 1,000 feet. But I'll tell you, when you get to the top of that thing, even though it was cloudy and you could see the smog from the city, still the view from up there was worth the effort. But there are some locals who live near there. You know how some people will go into a stadium or a basketball arena and just run the steps? There are some locals who will run the steps of the pyramid, the big pyramid, or the Pirámide de la Luna, yeah, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. Pirámide de la Luna, or the Pyramid of the Moon, which is the smaller of the two. People may run the steps of that for exercise. But because they're used to it, you know, that's pretty much nothing for them. Yeah, I don't bother with a lot of that. Although every once in a while, I'll go across a park that's in front of my apartment building, and then I'll go across the street that's on the other side of that, and I'll go into Tasty Tacos. That is the only place I will go myself if I want something like that. But even that's only every few months I may do that. I very rarely go to a restaurant. Unless I either have a gift card, and I have been given gift cards to an Ethiopian place, which I love to hit. That I've never tried. I have seen it, but I've never tried it. So I wouldn't know if the elote would be done right or not done well at all. And I would assume that certain types of corn would just not lend well to that process. I could be wrong. Yeah, we just do not have that much of a variety here. We don't have a huge Mexican population. See, there was one of my very brief disconnects, maybe half a second, if that. When I was in Mexico, I never had a lot of that stuff, which many locals probably eat all the time, because the couple that I stayed with, they housed visiting students to earn some extra money. You know, they have a big house with an annex on the back side of this patio area, which used to be known as the servants' quarters. There are 3 rooms, I think, in there, plus a bathroom. That was opened up to students. And then the 4 bedrooms that the couple's children stayed in was opened up to visiting students, you know, after they had grown up and moved out. So instead of selling the house, they just kept it and decided to host visiting students from not only Mexico and other Spanish-speaking countries, but from outside, you know, U.S., you know, American, Canadian. Although I didn't meet any Canadians while I was down there. But they had a maid, but she did not live on the property. She came from her own home to do the cleaning and the cooking. And then there was another person who came in once or twice a week to do guest laundry. And so we would pick one of the 2 days to do our laundry. So that was very handy to have that laundry service. Paul is here. Yep, I have eaten most of the food. This is a 2018 pack, menu 19, done by Sapaco. I will fix the title later. And what the original package came with, the plain tortillas, but I had a pack of the chipotle tortillas that I switched out for these. And this one came with the cheese spread with bacon, but I wasn't sure what kind of a cheese spread or if any would be in here, so I got a cheese spread with jalapeno from my stash and switched out for this one. Because I don't eat pork, being a Muslim, I will pass this on to someone else. And it did come with these ketchup and mustard packets. I did not know if there would be ketchup and or mustard, so I got my own out. They're smaller packets than this. I just ended up using my own because I did not want to use a whole lot. But I put half of the cheese spread on the tortilla that I used to wrap the beef patty, and then the other half on the other tortilla just by itself. The flameless ration heater, which I did not use, but I saved these. This is the spoon that comes in it, but I saved these. These go into my stash. So the salt. If I were to use the flameless ration heater that is a few years old, I would be dumping the salt in there. And that helps kick it off, although sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. These beverage bags, they're not gusseted like the Canadian ones, but these are still great storage bags. And if I had to use a water purification tablet, I would fill the bag with water, put the water purification tablet in there, let it sit for the recommended amount of time minimum, and then it will be ready to drink. But I like that these do have the measurements for the different beverage types. But you can use these to store anything. You don't have to use it for mixing a drink, and you can use it in your pack to keep something dry. Of course, I say the matches because it's always a good thing to have matches. These moist towelettes, I have a good collection of these. And this bowl, what I did was the cherry blueberry cobbler that came in this ration got heated up and then poured over the crumbled up oatmeal chocolate chunk cookie. So I busted up the cookie and put that in this bowl, and then I poured the warmed up cobbler over top and then mixed it up. And these M&Ms have seen better days, but a couple of different times I would throw a few of these in there. These are still edible. The chocolate has gone to powder, as you can see in my tray, some of it. It's like this orange drink needs stirred again, but I'm not going to bother with it. This is that sugar-free drink that comes in a little stick packet. That's intended to go into, say, a water bottle of this capacity. This is a 500 milliliter capacity bottle, 16.9 ounce. It looks bigger because it's a double wall bottle. This tastes like a sugar-free Tang. At least this one had real sugar for the coffee. There's a coffee instant type 2. If I get a packet of the Splenda or another branded version of that sweetener, I substitute real sugar for it. And then I save those packets because I can give those to people who have to use that, or as a backup plan in case I can't have my sugar or honey to sweeten something. So I do save those packets. And then the gum that was in here, cinnamon gum, you can tell that because this side of the packet is red and this side is clear. So that's how you distinguish this from the peppermint MRE gum. The spearmint one, that's green, so you can tell that, but they used a 2-color packet for the cinnamon. But all of these unused items get added to my preps. These spoons go into a bag of plastic spoons because it's a way to have utensils on hand in case I have to seriously conserve my water. Even in this apartment, I do store water. I can't store as much as people who have a larger home can store. But I do store water. Granted, it would be in smaller containers, and I spread them throughout my apartment. Some for drinking and cooking. Some for cleaning, flushing the toilet. You know, where I'm not going to consume it. You know, hand washing my clothes. So back in 2020 and part of 21, when they were doing a full reno of this building with a few of us still living in it, there are numerous times where they would shut the water off to upgrade the plumbing or to do a repair. If we get advance notice, we will be told to store up water, but I already have water stored, but I would still take big mixing bowls and put them in my tub, fill them up. That would be strictly for gravity flushing the toilet. That's the only reason why I use those bowls, is because I can pour them fast down the toilet and gravity flush. But I have a plastic cat litter jug that has a wide mouth that's about that big around. I could pour half of that and gravity flush the toilet. And then if I needed to refill that, but I couldn't use my tub faucet, I would fill that from other jugs that have a smaller opening, say like, something like that big. I would refill that cat litter jug from bottles with a smaller mouth, and then that would be ready for the next time, unless I just choose to dump water in a bowl and do it that way. But by saving every ration utensil I get, and sometimes I go, if I get a meal during my Transit Rider Advisory Committee meetings, I get utensils with my lunch, because we have lunch during those meetings if we attend in person, and I do. If I do not use a utensil, instead of throwing it away, which would be a waste, I bring it home. Or if I have gone to a restaurant and I get utensils with the meal and I don't use it, I'll bring it home. I once in a while might nip an extra straw. Not always. I don't do it all the time. I don't want to look like I'm going in there just to steal. But once in a while, I will nip. Or if I get more napkins than what I need, I bring the unused napkins home and put them in a bag. So when I open up the halal MREs, they have a napkin in them in addition to one of these wet wipes. I save that napkin. I use a paper towel to dry my wet retort pouches off. If I need to wipe up a mess, I'll just use that instead. And if I don't have to wipe up a mess and I've only dried off a wet pouch, I'll save this and use it again. Now these rear rolls, these would be good barter items, just like the matches or the wet wipes. I got several of these in my bug out bag, in a plastic bag to keep them dry. And those I've gotten rid of these outer papers, but the other ones that I've saved, I keep the papers that are wrapped around them. But these are not only good for taking care of business, but if you have to clean up a mess with it, if you have to use, say, this outer sleeve as tinder, use your match, rip this outer sheath, or maybe use the card that your food info was printed on. You could use that as tinder and help get a fire going if you needed to do that. But I save all these. So that is one way I add to my emergency supplies. If there's a time where I have to use one of these, see, I want to heat up something that's small to fit in there, or I could put against this element. I could do that because it wouldn't give off any scent of me cooking. I could still have some hot food, or at least make myself a warm drink with it. You know, using this because these are designed to take heat. I can do that, and no one would be the wiser. As opposed to going out on my deck and firing up one of my camp stoves, which I have done during power outages. When the derecho storm hit us in August of 2020, my power was out for 3 days. I used my pocket stove to heat up water for instant coffee, or to make me a cup of tea. And then I ate a couple of rations. And then when the storm had died down a bit and I felt safe going out on my deck and cooking, I took my alcohol stove, my homemade alcohol stove, which is the only one I had at the time. I put 4 ounces of isopropyl alcohol in it, or no, I used heat, the yellow bottle heat. And then I cooked up some deer meat that I had taken out of my freezer. I wanted to cook that up before it would go to crap on me. And then after I cooked that up, then I opened up a can of, I had done this previously. I had a can of the sliced carrots that I drained, and I used the rest of that alcohol to cook those in the drippings from my deer meat, and had that as a dinner. I had done some cooking on my deck with camp stoves previously. Yeah, you can also use hand sanitizer. Yeah, the gel hand sanitizer would work a little better because it stays in one place more. Unless you really wanted to soak your tinder, then the spray might be fine. And I have seen on video people using the alcohol prep pads. You light those up to help get a fire going. Thanks for dropping in, LC. Hope to see you another time. Yeah, you if you break it up or break your tinder open a bit, make it finer, then you have a better chance of getting sparks off of your ferro rod to hit it. You'd have to do something else if you were using a flint and steel to get a fire going, because then you would need some charred material or a piece of chaga or horsehoof fungus to take the spark. Yeah, and you shouldn't have any issue finding chaga, because all you have to do is just look up a birch tree. The birch tree that's in front of my apartment has chaga on it, but I can't get at it. But I've picked up a lot of the bark that has fallen on the ground. I got like 4 bags full, quart bags full of that birch bark, and then I have a few pieces in other places in kits. Yeah, a lot of people like to do that. I have never done that with chaga. I only have 2 pieces, so I guess I'm kind of wanting to hold on to the 2 pieces that I have. I have not been able to find or collect anymore because I need a driver to get to other places where I can get it. And it would have to be low enough where I can get at it, because I'm a shorty. There's Shadow Scout Sweet in the house. Thanks for dropping in. I only have a few bits of my messed up M&Ms, but that's okay. I'm still going to finish them off. This is a 2018 pack, menu 19. But instead of the plain tortillas, I use these chipotle tortillas. I love these. I wish I could buy these types of tortillas in a store, because I would. I'll just stuff that in a bag with all the other trash. This one came with the cheese spread with bacon, but because I don't eat pork, I substituted cheese spread with jalapeno. But that cheese spread will not go to waste. It will go to someone who will eat it. In this bowl, I took the cherry blueberry cobbler that I had heated up along with the beef patty and poured it over the crumbled up oatmeal chocolate chunk cookie. And then I mixed it and then just let it sit. And a couple of different times I threw some of these busted up M&Ms in there. If those M&Ms were maybe a couple of years older, they probably wouldn't have been edible. went ahead and gave the orange drink another stir because some of the powder had settled down. But these packets came in the MRE, but I used the smaller ketchup and mustard packets that I took out of my fridge because I wasn't sure if there would be any in there. So I will hold on to these. These would be enough for 2 patties, but you only get one, so. Yeah, I eat beef bacon, and I usually get the kind that is made by an Iowa-based company. I like to support a local company if I can. So I will buy Minimar products when I can. Some of their items have not been available lately. They do ground turkey, but finding any shelf-stable turkey or frozen turkey can be hit or miss. I have not been able to find canned turkey anywhere that past few months. So I think the next time I want to buy it, I'm just going to order it online and have it shipped. Walmart did not even have the chicken Vienna sausages, which I buy because I will not eat the ones made from pork. But the ones made from chicken, I will eat. I do get the turkey Spam. That's the only Spam that I will eat. I do have halal versions made from chicken, turkey, and beef, so I do have those. But the store that I get my halal meats from and some spices and other things and some of the teas that I've been going after lately, they get their bulk meat from local farmers, and so someone will go to the farm, buy the animal, slaughter it there, right on the farmer's property, in the place that the farmer says they can do it. And then, so it's a Muslim who does this, then the meat will be rough processed, or some people call it dressing. You're skinning the animal, you're breaking it down into more manageable pieces. And then after that, it's brought to the store for final cutting and packaging. And then those are usually sold frozen. But you can get the ground beef or larger pieces. You can get meat cubes with the bone in. And they do 1 pound up to the 10-pound logs of the ground beef. Well, gelatin does not only come from pigs, it can come from cows. So beef gelatin is used in the production of products where gelatin would be an essential ingredient. It's just the beef gelatin that is used instead of the pork gelatin. But some of the meats, like I was going to get a pound of ground lamb, but there was none to be had. I did not even see lamb chunks with the bone in. I saw goat meat with the bone in, but I took a pass on that. Now maybe after Ramadan I might get some goat meat and then put it in my Instapot. I want to do something with the bone in to see how that would work in the Instapot as opposed to just doing it in my slow cooker, which I've done before. If it's different from the canned chunk chicken, I have never seen that. I'm sure that would have to be this like a number 10 can size. I don't know where I would find a whole chicken in one can, as opposed to just the chicken meat already chunked up, without any of the fat, or maybe most of the fat removed. I bet they would be up there, considering that a lot of shelf-stable food is a necessity. I mean, in winter, if you lose your power, you can just throw your food outside. And I've done that here on my deck. I got quite a few packs of chicken that were given to me, but I couldn't put them all in my freezer, so what I did was, it was really, really cold outside, so I put them in a bucket on my deck, and then as I made space in the freezer, took something out, I would take one of those packs of chicken and stick it in. So I continued that until I was able to get all of that chicken in the freezer, except for the one pack that I decided to use. So fortunately, it was cold enough outside where I didn't have to worry about that chicken thawing out on the deck, because there was a lot of snow and more was falling, so it was pretty well covered. But I could still take the lid off of that bucket and grab a pack to throw in the freezer. And when I was younger and still living with my parents, when we had power outages during the winter, that's what we did. We had our camp coolers, we'd fill them up, put the stuff outside, and we were good to go. Yep. As long as you can keep critters out of it, you should be fine. Yeah, being on an upper floor deck, it would be harder for a lot of critters to get at my food that I had out there. I get birds and squirrels, but they can't handle a full-size chicken package. Yeah, that's another thing you can do. You can get some coolers that can be locked. And speaking of outdoor appliances, on the channel Iridium 242, he showed a mini fridge that was a little bit bigger than your typical dorm fridge. It is rated and designed for outdoor event use, but anyone can buy these if you got the coin to drop on it. It's like $500, I think he said. But the dorm fridge that he had in his garage kept crapping out on him, especially during the summer. But this one that he got, it uses a whole lot less power, and it keeps a constant temp so far since he's had it, and it can hold a lot more stuff, and he will be using it as his backup fridge for critical food items during a power outage. He can plug it into a power station, and it uses no more than maybe a constant 100 watts. It has a like 275 watt startup surge, but after that initial surge, then it uses no more than 100 watts when the compressor's running. But because it shuts off like your standard fridge when the desired temperature is reached, it doesn't stay on all the time. It runs for a while, then it shuts off. Runs for a while, then shuts off. And your freezers are like that too. Your standalone freezers do that. But he is already liking the performance, and because it's rated for outdoor use, and it can be locked if he so chooses, he feels confident in that working well plugged into a power station in his garage when he loses power to his house. And being that it uses less juice than a standard dorm fridge, and yet has more capacity, that's a no-brainer. Well, actually, I think you said it was like $800 for one of those things, but yeah. That is like almost $200 above my rent, so not everybody can afford that, but for those who can, it looks like a great option. Yeah, but because it only goes down to 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius, you cannot freeze in it. But if you keep it at that temperature, you're very close to freezing. But you could keep meats in there, you could keep medicines in there that have to be kept cold, like insulin or injectable biologic medicines, like some that you take for rheumatoid arthritis or for other diseases where you have to have what's called a biologic medicine. They have to be kept cold in order to be effective. Just like vaccines for the big nasty have to be kept cold in order for them to be effective. If those fridges and freezers that they're kept in crap out and then there's no backup, you gotta dump those because they're basically spoiled at that point. But being able to keep medicine cold, that's another reason to have some kind of a backup plan. And one of my former clients who was using Humira, if she had to travel with it, she had a little cooler like some would get for storing your fresh bait in. So you go to a bait shop and get some containers of worms for fishing. You have to keep those in a cooler when you have them outside, especially during the hot summer, and then those worms will stay more alive and they'd be better for fishing. And what we do, we have two of these coolers. We actually keep one in the freezer at the cabins that we stay in. Then when one gets a little warm, we just swap them out. And then we throw the warm one in the freezer and cool it down. It's the same thing with these medicines. My former client, I also had some diabetics, and if they traveled with their insulin, they had to keep a little cooler with some kind of an ice pack, or they'd freeze the cooler bag itself and then put the vials in there to keep it cool while traveling. Fortunately, I don't have any of those types of medicines that I have to keep cold, so I don't have to worry about that. But I know plenty of diabetics who do travel with their insulin, and so they keep a cooler during summer trips so that they can keep it at the close to the proper temperature, and it would be more effective. Nope. Unless you either have several freezers or you get smaller game like birds, or you can it. I would like to be able to can, but I don't have the proper storage for a lot of jars. Now I don't have the space for a lot of jars. Plus my stove is a piece of crap. The big burner doesn't work. And I've tried slow cooking on the stove. I can't go more than an hour or it will just shut off. So if I want to slow cook something, I have to use my crock pot. Or now I have my Instapot that I can do it in. Yeah, that would. Especially if you're getting some of them bigger fish like salmon, northerns, muskies. Big old fat walleyes, or I was watching Sean James, who's up in Canada, and he was ice fishing. And then, yeah, he ice fishes with his daughter who has her own YouTube channel. But I can't remember this other channel I was watching, but a huge trout as big as a northern pike out of a river. I mean, that thing had to be as long as this tray. I didn't know a trout could get that big, but I guess in this place they did. And this guy managed to get it through the ice hole. Yeah. I'm not used to dealing with a fish that big. Biggest fish I ever caught was a 5-pound carp. But that thing was more fat than long. Yeah, that's a trout on steroids. But that carp went back into the drink because no one in my family wanted to mess with it. Yeah, I would love to go up to Alaska, but that kind of travel is just not in the budget. And because I don't have a passport, I don't know how I could get through Canada if I was riding in a vehicle. Now, flying would probably be easier. Wouldn't have to fly through Canadian airspace. But from those channels that I watched, they're up in Alaska. It looks really, really beautiful up there. Yeah, I will do that. I would love to catch northern lights up there, the aurora borealis. I want to do that. I want to fish up there. And maybe ride in a sled behind a bunch of huskies. Hunting, I wouldn't be so good at because I can't aim worth a flip. I just don't have the vision for it. So someone else would have to do the hunting for me. I mean, if I'd be lucky if I could hit a moose at 50 yards. If I could even get around to go that far. Although in November, when I was target shooting at a friend's property, I did hit one of the meadow targets once. And I guess that was a lucky shot. And then I shot my BB plinker and hit a closer target once. I haven't shot a bow since college. Yep. Yep, where you're at, you have to be very, very self-sufficient. Only go into town for those things you cannot produce yourself. Or you can't take care of at home. During the mid 80s, when I was going to college in Arkansas, I spent my time away from campus at a Girl Scout camp on Lake Ouachita, which is in Arkansas. And it was 50 miles from a town called Hot Springs. The other towns that were closer, but you couldn't get as much there or do as much as you could in Hot Springs. So when we needed to go into town for stuff, we would make a whole day of it and do everything we needed to do all in that one day. That way we wouldn't have to make multiple trips. Because we were at a scout camp during the summer, we even had less time to go into town because we were busy taking care of stuff at the camp while campers in their and their scout staff were there. But during the off season, or in between scout groups, then we had more time. That's when we would take the trips into town. Of course, in the mornings and evenings, we would have to look after the horses. So occasionally I got to help my dad with taking care of the horses when there was no one else there. Which I didn't mind because I enjoy being around horses. There is Smitty in the house. A day late and the ration short. So 2018 pack. I had a little fun with it. These tortillas came in the MRE, but I substituted some chipotle tortillas. This cheese bread with bacon came in the bag, so I swapped it out for jalapeno cheese spread. And then I couldn't remember if ketchup and mustard came in there, so I got my own packets out, and I ended up using those instead of these bigger ones that came in the bag. But that's okay, I'll hold on to these. The cherry blueberry cobbler got heated up and poured over the crumbled up oatmeal chocolate chunk cookie. And the M&Ms had seen better days. They had started to crumble and bloom. But I still ate them. In fact, I threw a few of those into the cobbler. The sugar-free orange drink. Which still wants to settle. Usually these don't. And this is a coffee instant type 2 with real sugar in the accessory pack instead of the Splenda. That would have to be after 2020, maybe. I don't remember the year of the other jalapeno beef patty I had, but with that one, I had a Canadian hamburger bun, so I used that instead. But because I had those chipotle tortillas, I decided that I want to have those with that jalapeno beef patty. Now this cheese spread with bacon will get passed on to someone else who will eat this. I have 3 others already in a bag. I just haven't decided who is going to get that yet. But I looked at the ingredients in this. Real bacon. It's not the fake bacon flavored TVP. As I said earlier, if these M&Ms would have been a couple years older, they probably would not have been edible, or maybe just barely. It probably would have been completely powdered. But it still tasted good. Added a little extra chocolate to the cobbler. Not really. Well, they cracked. They were cracked, as you can tell by the chocolate dust. It looks like cocoa mix powder instead of the dark brown chocolate that you would associate with M&Ms. But the flavor was still there. I mean, they tasted fine. They just did not have the same texture as fresher M&Ms would have. But the beef patty itself was very delicious. It didn't taste dry, it didn't taste rubbery. I used the fork end of my spork to take it out of the pouch instead of dumping out all those juices that it was packed in, because I wanted to have it inside of the tortilla. I put the ketchup, mustard, and half of the cheese spread with jalapeno on it. I wouldn't be surprised that whole chicken in a can might be popular in some parts of Canada as well. But I bet if you search online, you might be able to buy it outside of Alaska. Might cost you an arm and a leg and a tail and a beak. I know you can buy canned bacon, and I have seen it online and in videos. In fact, Alaska Granny showed a can of it in her video about different kinds of shelf-stable meats to have in your food preps. Of course, she mentioned some that she doesn't store because she doesn't eat them, or no one in her family eats them, but she did mention them as options for those who do. I've only seen one brand of the canned bacon. I have seen videos on people canning their own bacon. So you'd have these rolls of bacon in, wrapped with parchment inside of the jar. That's come out of their canner. Yeah, yeah, she said that the canned bacon lately has been extremely expensive to purchase, no matter where you go to try to buy it, whether in a store or online. So if you have already purchased it before the price went up, or you can your own bacon, then you don't have to worry about dealing with those high prices. Just like earlier, I was saying that I have not been able to find canned turkey in a store. I don't go to a lot of stores. I don't take buses all over town just to try to find one item. So if I cannot find it, I just don't bother with it, or I wait for an opportunity to order it online and just have it shipped. Let's see. James is heading out. Thanks for dropping in. I've gone over 3 hours. So I'll probably go ahead and close this one out anyway, since I'm just down to my drinks. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and close this one out for tonight. Next week, I'll either pull one of my halal MREs. I have another totem that I can pull out. I don't want to do the one that I got from LC, because I want to find some appropriate accessories. Either try to find the accessory pack that would have originally gone with that particular pair of mains and a dessert, or come up with items that would probably be an approximation of what would be in there. I'll have to do some research on that to try to figure out how I can do that, see what would normally be in there, and then come up with something that would be a good substitution. But I'll think about that one. And I also have 2 more of those Chef 5-minute ones that will have the same granola, the same banana chips, just a different main. I may pull out one of those. Who knows? I'll figure that out for next Sunday, and then I'll post up what I decide. So anyway, I do want to thank you all for hanging out with me. So have a good night and catch you on the flip side.